that they or their family will not be vaccinated to have their children or elderly relatives removed permanently from their homes and or for them to be removed from the property regardless of ownership or deed entitlements. I'm going to repeat this. Your children and elderly that are not vaccinated will be removed permanently from your home, no matter what your ownership of your property is. Continuing. A copy of these proposals titled Combating COVID Disinformation 2021.
We are quite focused on communicating directly with those people, hence our special guest today, about why it's important to get vaccinated, why these vaccines are safe, why they can still kill you even if you are under the age of 27. We need
what? Now, I don't want to take anything out of context, so let's just play her words again.
Why they can still kill you even if you are under the age of 27. We need to be clear and direct about our messaging.
Okay.
According to official government data, there have now been over 6,000 deaths as a direct result of taking the coronavirus vaccine. Another 2,500 people have suffered heart attacks, and over 17,000 have experienced a severe allergic reaction. Over 4,000 fully vaccinated people have been hospitalized or have died after coming down with the Chinese coronavirus. The CDC says these breakthrough cases are the worst among the elderly, with 76% of the deaths occurring in patients over 65. But with the knowledge that it doesn't appear to protect people from the virus and has significant and even fatal consequences of its own, the vaccine, for now, seems more problematic than the disease it's intended to cure.
Researchers in Britain are calling on the government to halt their use of coronavirus vaccines immediately after discovering potentially toxic side effects. Here's One America's Pearson Sharp.
More and more evidence from around the world is pouring in that raises doubts about the safety and efficacy of the vaccine for the Chinese coronavirus. Now, a new report from doctors in England calls for a complete cessation of using COVID vaccines on humans. That's according to the UK-based evidence-based medicine consultancy group, which submitted its findings to Britain's Department of Health, claiming there is, quote, more than enough evidence to declare the COVID-19 vaccines unsafe for use in humans. Doctors say after examining official public health records, they looked at a number of reported side effects from the vaccine, including bleeding and clotting, unexpected immune system reactions, unusual pain reactions, neurological responses, loss of sight, hearing, speech, or smell, or adverse reactions affecting pregnancy, including miscarriage. Researchers explained that the products in the vaccine are toxic to humans and called for an immediate halt to the vaccination program to conduct a full investigation into these harmful effects. According to the VAERS website, a U.S. government site which tracks adverse reactions to vaccines, nearly 6,000 people have died as a result of taking this vaccine. Some 20,000 more have been hospitalized. Nearly 2,000 others have come down with Bell's palsy, paralysis of the facial muscles, and 44,000 people have checked themselves in to urgent care. That's not to mention the 5,900 life-threatening reactions people have had directly from receiving the vaccine, including 2,200 people who suffered heart attacks as a result of getting the injection. And this is all government data. According to VAERS, over 650 women have suffered miscarriages as a result of the vaccine, and some 4,500 people are now disabled, some permanently. These numbers are greater than all the other side effects of all the other vaccines in the entire world combined. This is not normal. But then again, this isn't a normal vaccine. It's experimental. In Israel, the government mandated that young people get vaccinated to attend in-person exams at school, only to see a massive spike in cases of severe heart inflammation, known as myocarditis.
So I saw what you did on the air yesterday.
Yes.
You may get terminated for that. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am.
All right, so you're okay with that then?
I understand if CBS decides to let me go. I do understand that.
Why would you do that? You know, basically, that's the most selfish thing I've ever seen in 36 years working there, without even a close second. Because you don't give a crap about anybody else, you know, and like if you get terminated, which you might, and then the burden is going to place on other people, you couldn't care less. It's just all about April Moss.
Well, that's
very, very unfortunate. I mean, I know we've had some talks and, you know, and all of that, but I didn't know that you were that kind of person.
I'm not that kind of person.
You
Chuck.
are, April. You are. You're all about April, and that's it. I'm April, and here's my stance. Regardless of the burden this is going to put on anybody else.
Well, I've tried to go through all of the direct channels that...
What do you think going on the air and getting fired is going to do? Do you think that's going to change their rules?
Well, it's not just CBS, but it's a lot of organizations and corporations across the country that are enforcing unfair standards on people.
I can't believe you did that. I just can't believe it. I mean, we had some chats offline and, you know, and some texts, you know, but to go on the air and just blatantly disregard any protocols, you know, and again, place all of this burden on other people, you know, I mean, I'm going to recommend that you get terminated. I'm going to recommend that. I'm not going to stand up for you. Because that was as blatant as anything I've ever seen.
Okay, but I've gone through all the natural channels with HR. I've sent them documentation stating that this is against federal law.
I understand that. I saw all that email. So do you think that going on the air and saying something and getting fired is going to change anything? I mean, what could you possibly have thought would affect that would have other than you getting fired?
I was hoping that they would understand and realize that that enforcing these policies on people that are against federal law is not okay.
So you're going to go on there and say that, and you think that they're going to say, oh, you know what, she's right. We're going to go ahead and change those now because she said it on the air. You really thought that?
I was hoping there would be a change.
No,
because
there's not going to be. The only change is going to be, you know, on our weekend weather person. That's the only change.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
As soon as you and I finish, I'm leaving the country again. Why? Because in a very short time, not today, not tomorrow, but very soon, we'll be facing compulsory vaccination under the mistaken term of voluntary vaccination. Well, first of all, let's start with the fact that the World Health Organization has decided that we have 90% too many people. The World Health Organization has been working since 1974 on vaccines to create permanent sterility. This process has already been ongoing. To make matters worse, we know that the vaccines that were illegally approved by the FDA contain a substance called squalene.
Squalene, an organic...
You've been wondering whether you should take the vaccine or not? Well, watch this video clip because it's a game changer. Pretty much makes up your mind for you.
So what explains those numbers? This appears to be happening. Why is it happening? Well, a physician called Robert Malone tried to address that question recently in a podcast that was broadcast on YouTube, but YouTube immediately took it down. Now, they did this even though Dr. Robert Malone may be the single most qualified person on planet Earth to discuss this subject. Why? Because he helped create the mRNA technology behind the COVID vaccines. We think he has a right to speak. Dr. Robert Malone joins us now. Doctor, thanks so much for coming on. In a way that's accessible to non-scientists, I hope you'll tell us, do you have concerns about these vaccines for people who aren't at great risk?
Yes. I think that one of my concerns are that the government is not being transparent with us about what those risks are. And so I'm of the opinion that people have the right to decide whether to accept vaccine or not, especially since these are experimental vaccines. This is a fundamental right having to do with clinical research ethics. And so my concern is that I know that there are risks, but we don't have access to the data, and the data haven't been captured rigorously enough so that we can accurately assess those risks. And therefore, for folks like your audience, you and me, we don't really have the information that we need to make a reasonable decision.
And there you have it, folks. Well, if you're dumb enough to go ahead and take that vaccine, then go right ahead. But I'm telling you, I ain't doing it.
They're nice and round. They have a dark center that's very normal. There is good spacing between them. You don't see any debris or material. You don't see them clumping or with strange shapes. What you're seeing side by side on the right-hand side of your screen is the blood of a blood smear from a person who took one of the Moderna shots. And if you'll notice, before we get to those large gold tubular structures, if you notice on the blood cells compared to the healthy ones on the left, you see they're all crumpled. They're not nice and round. Their nuclei, the middle portion looks destroyed, and they're starting to clump or aggregate to each other in a sticky fashion. Now, the gold, he calls them, Dr. Van Welbergen calls those gold structures, tubes, that when he magnified them even further on the regular microscope, they are actually in a tube form, and he can see the opening on either end of those. Remember, this looks strikingly like the graphene oxide that we saw under the regular microscope from the Spanish researchers La Quinta Columna, where you saw that sort of folded over protein that looked like looked like it was under like a piece of Kleenex under paint, and that's what this is. He's going to investigate it further. The second picture you see, which is a picture alone, shows a great amount of these blood cells that have totally aggregated. They're not normal. There's no space between them. And then you see this large cell that is filled with these white dots. We believe this may very well be like a macrophage, some kind of a defensive white cell. And inside are these white tiny dots. What Dr. Van Welbergen said was that when he put a fluorescent light over this particular cell structure and saw these white dots light up. And this is incredibly stunning, incredibly frightening. I've also provided your producers with several other photos, which I hope you can run through for the audience's view of other, mind you, each of these slides that I've provided are from different patients in Dr. Welbergen's practice. All of them have the common trait that they did receive an injection, and they were all, in this particular batch, Moderna. So we're very, very concerned, Stu. This is why we know these shots, especially Pfizer and Moderna, are the cause for all these blood clots, which are causing the strokes, the heart attacks, the myocarditis, the weakness. When it gets into the neurons, it's causing, neuromuscular degenerative conditions likened to Guillain-Barré.
Is this what he meant?
A third term. And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
A novel real-time facial reenactment method that works with any commodity webcam. Since our method only uses RGB data for both the source and target.
Is this what he meant?
A third term. And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.
A novel real-time facial reenactment method that works with any commodity webcam. Since our method only uses RGB data for both the source and target,